He AAs Brock Lesnar onto steel steps, which is brutal. Pins him 1, 2, 3. Did not need to happen. And then John Cena made it look like, I'm totally fine. Just my arms kind of messed up. Why, John? Why? Granted, Brock Lesnar got his first win against Triple H. Hey, that's still something good. I mean, something good must have happened later on. He goes on to face Triple H at WrestleMania and loses. Because reasons, really? I mean, he gets a win over Triple H in the steel cage. It makes, I guess you could say, makes Triple H look like, a baby back bitch by giving him a major concussion. Because then we got that great angle with him and Curtis Axel the following night where Triple H just passes out due to a concussion. Curtis Axel can say that he's got a victory over Triple H, just like he can say that he's still the longest running Royal Rumble guy since, 2015?
I think it is. Pretty sure. Go with that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it was 2015. That's right. Now I remember.
Great. I was helpful after all.
Gosh, give Curtis Axel a push, please. He deserves it. But yeah, just Brock Lesnar's first year, and even citing this from a episode of Talk Is Jericho, Edge kind of really hit the nail on the head where he said that he never should have lost. He never should have lost to Cena. He never should have lost to Hunter, because you can just imagine what the amount of momentum it could have been, how big of a deal it could have been for Brock Lesnar just to bulldoze through everybody and then go into WrestleMania 30 just completely undefeated. It could have been just such a major deal. It would have been something even bigger than what it was built up to be. I mean, granted, it was already a big match, but imagine what it could have been. It could have been something where people are just salivating like, oh my gosh, this could go either way. This could go just balls to the wall, just amazing. And imagine the shock that it would have been for Brock Lesnar to beat Undertaker. I mean, it was already shocking enough, but him just to go through everybody, and everybody's just thinking, oh my god, he just destroyed the Undertaker. We thought the Undertaker would actually have a chance, but no, he got destroyed. Just one of those things where it's like, again, it could have been something bigger, but fortunately, a pair of shovels and a John Cena Triple H later, yeah. I mean, they had no problem feeding CM Punk to Brock Lesnar. Surprise, surprise. No problem feeding Big Show to him. And they had no problem feeding John Cena to him 2 years later. Yeah. Dumb. Dum-de-dum-dum-dum. So, next up, Max?
My third. Alright. Well, we just talked about John Cena. Let's talk about him again. And I know some people would probably say, oh, this isn't one that, could have worked but bombed. This was crap from the beginning. I disagree. Rise Above Hate. Story where Kane tried to coax John Cena to the dark side. Yeah, admittedly, it kind of fell on its face when the whole Zack Ryder thing happened. Also, the fact that it went nowhere. Cut the Zack Ryder nonsense out of it and actually go somewhere with it. Returning heel, just have him, get close, do something different, and change the character up a bit. But nope, just status quo reinforcement and just making Kane look like a big old red bitch.
Yeah, I can agree with that, because the Rise Above Hate deal, like you said, it started off really good, and I think it would have been something really good to have Kane's character go. I mean, having him maybe even beat John Cena going into probably at Royal Rumble, that would have caused a little bit of shock. I mean, they could have just had Kane beat Cena, and then Cena could have beat Kane a month later with that ambulance match, which was wrongfully the main event. I mean, honest to God, that main event should have went to the WWE title elimination chamber, or at least the world title elimination chamber, because at least there could have gone off something there. That matchup just went nowhere, basically. Yeah. I mean, I would know. I was there for that Elimination Chamber event, and the fact that the Chamber went down, I thought, oh, okay, I guess we're just starting with the World title one, and then they said, we're starting off with the WWE title. Like, huh? Why? It makes no sense. Just why? Is it? It's just one of the things where, I think one of the many things where I look back and I agree full-heartedly with with CM Punk, where he has like these deals where he was basically saying, why don't you give me a chance? I mean, you make it seem like I'm not like a buy rate deal. Why don't you give me a chance and prove you wrong? And he has. I mean, well, he had. And then he had that UFC fight, which lasted in about like 2 minutes, and just was like, yeah, you're a real buy rate for being a human pincushion. But in WWE, you had something more. Anyway, so yeah, Rise Above Hate just definitely could have went somewhere more. And again, it just was one of the few times where we thought, oh, well, there goes Zack Ryder into the ground. But somehow he just pops up like a zombie and becomes relevant again because, oh my gosh, he's created so many great moments. Like nobody was expecting him to win the Intercontinental title last year. And I think that you and I, Max, I remember I think we were like two fans that were just really marking out like, oh my God, this actually happened. We thought it was going to be The Miz, and it's like, oh boy, here we go. We're going to see something stupid. And Zack Ryder comes from behind like, no way. Zack Ryder grabs the belt. Oh my God, glorious. Love it. Zack Ryder needs another WrestleMania moment, because that was just awesome.
All right. How many have you done now?
See, this would be my third now. See here. Trying to remember what the list was for that. Okay, this is probably one that kind of goes with gimmick as well as character-wise. I went with Chris Masters. Honestly, this was a guy that really kind of fit the bill of what like Vince McMahon kind of wanted, beefy, muscle-headed, and just all around, he actually had a pretty good character. And I thought that when he wrestled, it wasn't like the best, but it was actually pretty good. It was like Lex Luger, but done right. I loved the Master Lock challenge that he did, where he had pulled fans out of the ringside area, and they tried beating it, but nobody could. Then he brought some superstars onto it. And in all honesty, that Master Lock challenge should have just lasted forever. It should have never been broken. Because honestly, a lot of people can make the case, well, it's just a full Nelson. Yeah, but you look at the way that he does it, it basically looks like you're a freaking rag doll just about to have your head just popped off. It was just brutal. And it was after the Master Lock was broken by Bobby Lashley, where it was just like, oh, well, I guess it's nothing now. I think if you wanted to have momentum for Vince McMahon going into WrestleMania, you should have had Bobby Lashley lose the Master Lock challenge. Don't make Lashley into like this supernova of a guy. I mean, granted, he is Bobby Lashley, but at the same time, just have Chris Masters have that, basic deal where it's like, oh, nobody's broken it. It could have been something more. It could have been like the next, I want to say like Tatanka undefeated streak, where he was like 3 years where Tatanka didn't go pinned or submitted or something like that. I think I'm right about that. But yeah, I think Chris Masters could have been a lot more than what they really gave him credit. And I would have loved to have seen him as maybe Intercontinental Champion, U.S. Champion. He had it. He had the look. He had the charisma. It was just, again, horrible booking shenanigans, we'll call it. And then he just went on the independent scene, and not much has really happened, sadly. And I'm sad again. Max, please, what's your next one?
Well, let's stray away from WWE. I know, strange. Let's go to WCW. Now, in this case, we could pick pretty much anything from 1998 until the end. Really, anything. Pick a story. They probably screwed it up. The one I think most people overlook, NWO versus Wolfpack. Totally could have worked. Think about this. What did we get? The NWO gets too bloated because it adds like basically 90% of the WCW roster to its ranks. and it becomes unwieldy, and it takes a bunch of its members that nobody cares about, plus the original two, and forms another heel faction that's at war with the first heel faction, and they swap members, like, basically all the time. It was horrible. What they could have done is do that, have that split happen much earlier when the roster for the NWO was smaller, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of having them stay heel, either have them go face and be just a third faction, like, no, screw you, WCW, we don't work with Billionaire Ted. But at the same time, screw you, NWO. Or you could have them be tweeners, where they're kind of just trying to take them both out. They're, a rebel kind of thing. Instead, you got nonsense upon nonsense for like 2 years.
Yeah, and then the final nail in the coffin was the finger poke of doom.
I wasn't even going to bring that up. Why'd you do that to me?
Oh, man. That was almost as close to Darth Vader as I think I could probably hear. It's like, why must you do this to me? James Earl Jones is just like, holy cow, that guy was actually pretty good. All right.
And your number 4, good sir.
Well, I already took care of like WWE's fumbles, so we're going to just take away that, and we're going to go into another promotions that I thought should have worked. First one being from TNA. A lot of people will, again, agree, like you said with WCW, there are a lot of TNA programs that should have worked, but they just ultimately went down into the ground. First one that definitely kind of stood out to me was the Samoa Joe Nation of Violence. I mean, just the build-up to this was good. Samoa Joe gets kidnapped, and then he has this kind of secret vendetta. He has this new face paint. He just looks like a complete badass. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going back to a edgier kind of Samoa Joe that we all remember from, I want to say, back when he first debuted in like 2005, 2004, something like that. And his sole mission was to take out every single member of the Main Event Mafia until it was down to him and Kurt Angle. Great. Do we know who the person that's sponsoring him yet? No, but we were getting close to. Slammiversary comes around, and Samoa Joe finally gets that chance to take on Kurt Angle. And the final moments of the King of the Mountain matchup sees Samoa Joe powerbomb AJ Styles, grab the belt, climb up the ladder, and it's like, okay, Samoa Joe might be the champion. This would be interesting. Kurt Angle comes up at the same time, and it looks like we're going to see a title shot to the head of Kurt Angle. No. We get Samoa Joe passing the title to Kurt Angle, and Kurt Angle wins. Why? A month later, we see Samoa Joe beat Sting, and we find out who his sponsor is, and that being Taz, which should have happened sooner, because then maybe we could have had more clarification, because as soon as Taz entered into the fray, nobody really knew what was going on. They didn't know if, Samoa Joe was working for Main Event Mafia or if he was working for Taz. It just was a confusing ball of a mess. They should have just had, Samoa Joe take out the Main Event Mafia, have him pair up with Taz, and still be this badass that he could be. Why TNA? Why? That was such an underutilized use of Taz, where he could have been, again, just this badass manager for Samoa Joe, and he could have been the guy who just was like, he could have been, this would be a bad example, but he could have been like the Lana to Rusev for what Taz was to Samoa Joe, where he basically could have seen Samoa Joe, basically choking out a guy, and then Taz just saying, that's enough, and then Joe, let's go. Like, Taz is the only one who can control the beast that is Samoa Joe. And it would make sense. It would have been such a glorious storyline. But, again, it tanked. Alright. Last one, Max?
Oh, yeah, so that's pretty like 5. My 5th and final. Well, I will tour back to the murky shore of WWE, and I'll go easy on the last one. WWECW. Honestly, this thing had one of the best introductions possible. ECW One Night Stand 2006. Although, in my humble opinion, 2005 was better, but that's just me. But you had that, you had Paul Heyman back on board, a bunch of originals, plus a whole bunch of new talent, which really fed into the whole idea of ECW.